Will Nottingham Forest be relegated in their second season in the Premier League since returning, or could we see them climbing up the Premier League table this season? Hello guys, welcome back to yet another video. Today I'm joined by some special guests from Forest Fan TV as we have an in-depth look at Nottingham Forest going into their second season in the Premier League. Before we get into today's video guys, do share your opinions, whether you're a Forest fan or not, on what your expectations are for Forest this season. I know we've still got a little bit of time to go this summer and there's still will be transfers to come through the door, but let me get your early predictions down in the comments. I am actually going to be in Nottingham on Saturday to watch Nottingham Forest play Notts County in a pre-season friendly, so I might see some of you guys up there. Before we go any further as well guys, please do make sure to show some support. Let's go for 299 likes on this video today. Do hit that thumbs up button, do make sure to subscribe for more Premier League content, and do make sure to subscribe to Forest Fan TV, who we're very lucky to be joined by on the channel today. As you can see, I am joined by the brilliant Wolverine and Sense from Forest Fan TV. If you haven't already subscribed to their channel, do make sure to do so. There is a link in the description for Forest and Premier League content. What I'm really after today, guys, is some other opinions. You guys as Forest fans, I want to know your thoughts coming on to the new season. There's 4.5 weeks to go, but it does appear that there's a lack of transfer activity at this moment in time.
Big time, mate. Big time.
Yeah,
especially when in it as we had by this stage last year, we'd already signed 3 or 4 players.
Yeah.
There was still 19 more to come in before the window had closed. And it's like, I don't know. I think we're being greedy, but, you know, we are fans. We're allowed to be greedy. But, yeah, I would like to see some activity. But it is quiet. It is quiet at the moment.
Yeah, even on a rumour front, you know, there's a couple of players we've been linked with, but no real definite links, to be fair. No offers that we're aware of that are being, you know, discussed. But you're right, we kind of by this time last season we probably had about half a dozen players in. Little did we know we'd have another 15 or 20 coming in on top of that, but it was exciting. Maybe we have to just adjust our expectations a little bit more this season, but I'm sure there'll be players in before the season kicks off for sure.
Yeah, I think as well, pragmatically, there's 2 things for me. Like, yes, I'm probably a little less patient than most, but the reason I want them in early is because of the preseason thing. I don't want us to be in a situation like we were last season, where it was all talk about give them time to gel, give them time to gel, give them time to gel, which obviously they needed. For me, if we can get them in, and the club kind of alluded to the fact they wanted to do their business early, to give them that full pre-season so that we can hit the ground running. I mean, it's a hard ground we're going to hit, man. Arsenal away with the first game of the season. But that's what I want to see. I don't care if it's not massive volumes coming in this summer. We need a couple here and there, but I just want them to have a good full pre-season. Cooper always goes on about how important a pre-season is. And, you know, that's what I want, really. Get them in quick. And I think it's Hendo that's slowing things up. Not him personally, but the deal with Man U. That's what's causing stumbling blocks. Yeah.
Before we look forward to next season, I want to just rewind back to last season and what your overriding thoughts are. Nottingham Forest were obviously busy in the transfer window last summer. They were busy in January. They were active, bringing in the likes of Danilo and Gustavo Scarpa. What's your thoughts on the season as a whole, and your thoughts on how Steve Cooper set up?
As a whole, in the end, I think it was more relief than anything else. And it was really weird going into that final game against Crystal Palace, where we were safe and there was no pressure on us, and it was a real party atmosphere down there. And I know a lot of Forest fans went down with inflatables and, you know, really made an atmosphere of it, which eventually the Crystal Palace fans also joined in with. But it was a really strange season, and obviously even from the start of it, the truncated pre-season with the World Cup break in between, it was obviously an unprecedented season in so many ways, with our signings and with the way the season was split up with the international World Cup break. But there were periods of that season last year where we were in real free fall, and we'll be honest, there was times when we were unsure that the manager was going to be able to stick it out and whether he was the right man for the job. But I'm happy to say that I was proven wrong. The owner did what he needed to do, made the right decision, as it turns out in the end. But it was a really tough season, and I think being able to survive it was the most important thing, obviously. And in reflection, you look back at some of the amazing results we had, especially at home. and you've got to look at the highlights from last season. The biggest disappointment was our away form, and that ultimately could have got us sent us down last season. But it was great to see that towards the end of the season we looked comfortable in those last few games where the shape was changed, where the tactics were changed, and we did enough to get ourselves over the line. And that's, on reflection, that's probably all we could have really asked for.
Yeah, it was relief, I think, is the right word, because it was a stressful season, the whole time, and it was up and down. And I was like, he's not it for the job. I didn't think he could do it, but I will say, like, 99.9% of the fan base were fully behind him, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion. And the objective was complete. At the end of the day, Forest's objective was to remain a Premier League team. So you can argue that, and I'm happy that, for that argument. We stayed up, and that was the main thing. So, that was the most important thing. Most important thing was that we stayed up and established. Do I want to see progression into this season? Absolutely. We'll talk about that in a bit, no doubt. But you can't, to give Cooper his credit, 23, well, the song Waka Waka AA, I'm not going to say the whole thing, but 30 signings overall. It was crazy. It was never seen before. And what I loved about it was that it felt like the media was against us. Firstly, it started with it's good to see Forest back. We all love Forest. And then it became a bit of a meme, didn't it? How many more players are they going to sign? Double-decker buses, expand the car park and all this stuff. And to be fair to Cooper, he got it right in the end. He got it over the line. Did I think he was going to? I had my doubts a lot through the season. But it's done. And now it's a case of next steps. Let's kick on and not sit on our laurels, and really push forward and see what we can do and take Forest back to where I think they belong.
Absolutely. I fully agree with that. Obviously, staying up was the main objective for Nottingham Forest, and that is what they accomplished in the end. It was a strange season. There was times where they shot themselves up into mid-table, and there was times when they were back in the relegation dogfight, but they did just get over the line. It's an interesting point you raised, Ez, about the home and away disparity. Nottingham Forest picked up 30 of their points at home, 8 points on the road. So Nottingham Forest came 10th out of all the Premier League teams in the home table, but they were 20th bottom of the away table. Looking forwards to next season now, Nottingham Forest have been dealt a very hard hand at the start of the season. Those first 6 games, 4 of them on the road and against the so-called Big Six clubs. Nottingham Forest, if they want to kick on, will need to start picking up more points on the road. Can you see Nottingham Forest managing to do that, and especially in those first few tricky games as well?
Yeah,
you can answer this one, Ez.
Yeah, well, and it's a great point you made. It wasn't just about the results; it was about the performances away from home as well, because it was night and day. We see them the week before playing at home against, say, Chelsea, for example, the 1-1 draw I think it was on New Year's Day. A great second half performance. And then you think to yourself, when you go away from home, I mean, that's probably not a good example of, because I think the next away game was our only away win of the season. I think it was Southampton that was the next game. But, that's probably not a great example. But what was happening was you're seeing these performances at home, and then when you're going away from home, you're seeing a totally different style. Even the same players, same formation, but it was like there was a mental block. Or, I mean, a couple of the guys in our group would say, that they were getting overawed by the big stadiums and the atmospheres and things like that. I don't think it's quite that, but there was definitely a difference in the performances away from home and at home. And even if that can be changed even slightly, say if we can get 2 or 3 more away wins, that's an extra 9-10 points, and and that's a good 5-10 places higher up in the table. So it might not need major tweaks. It might only need small tweaks, especially away from home. And we can see some positive progress. But you're right. I mean, it was the performances. It wasn't just that we weren't getting results. We were playing very differently away from home as well. But we'll really think that's
I was going to say, I think there's a bit of psychology behind it as well, because it became a habit, didn't it? And then Cooper was being asked about it every single press interview. I remember some press interviews, he'd bring it up before they asked him it. It became one of those things, and the expectations, and you can just see that pressure building and building and building. And you got to look at it as well. We should have beat Brentford away from home. We were ahead against Palace. We were ahead against Leeds. You know, I think we lost probably one of the most points in general. Then we lost over 23 points from winning positions last season, and a few of them were on the road. But there was also progress. I was at the Man City away game where it was men versus boys at the start of the season. That was late August. We lost 6-0, and they could have had more. You know, it was like 6 is enough. We'll take mercy on you. I went to the Arsenal away match as well. That was 5-0. So what happened was, although we were still losing games away from home, the leakiness slowed down a bit, and it was a bit tighter. Maybe we were losing 1-0, 2-0, you know, that kind of line. But it has to improve. But as you brought up, Matt, the start to next, it's like they were taking the mick, man. They were like, okay, they were crap away from home last season. Let's deal them this hand and see what happens. Now, for me, I look at it and I think to myself, okay, at least we're getting them out the way. If we can nick a point or two from those away games, because the home games are Burnley and Sheffield United, the other way around, I think they are. So potentially, you can never predict anything in football. But if we were to win our 2 home games, get 6 points there, and maybe nick a draw. Yeah, I'd love to nick one at Old Trafford. I hate Manchester United. It'd make my year. If we can nick 1 or 2 there and come away with 8 points after the first batch of games, it still doesn't get easier, Matt. We then got Crystal Palace away and Liverpool away as the next 2 after that. So it doesn't get any easier. And I just think to myself, okay, at least those are done. And when we come to the business end of the season, at least they'll be at the City ground when we're facing them. So you can spin it into a positive as well.
Yeah, it completely makes sense. You get those games out of the way. The problem is you just don't want to be left chasing from a leading position after not picking up so many points in those first few games. And I agree with those home games. Burnley and Sheffield United, Forest will be made favourites for those games, especially with their good home record last season and that extra year of Premier League experience. But they are high pressure games and those teams will be desperate to stay up, which segues on to my next point about the relegation battle itself. What's your thoughts coming into it? You've got 3 teams coming up that are going to be desperate to stay up. You've got the 3 teams that came up last season that all stayed up. Who do you think is going to be involved in this relegation battle?
I mean, as things stand, I feel sorry for Luton, to be honest, because everyone's penciled them in as automatic, straight up, straight down kind of team. I think, look, I remember they had a bit of bite when we played them in our championship season. They did well against you, as we talked about on our stream in the playoff final. Are they going to have enough for the Premier League? No. I mean, their ground needs sorting out. You know, there's talks they may be playing at MK Dons, but you have to. And I don't mean it begrudgingly, because I used to get annoyed when people were saying it about Forest at the start of last season. So I think they'll be in trouble. I think Bournemouth will be in trouble, or at least I would like Bournemouth to be in trouble. That's a fan of theirs. There's with their stupid roof issues from when the game got cancelled. And the other one, I actually think Sheffield United will finish bottom. I think Luton will finish ahead of them. Those would be the 3. And if Everton can't get in any transfers, I think they're in major trouble. They've sold, obviously, Sims to you. They haven't got a striker. Mopé is not a striker. No. Calvert-Lewin is made of glass. So, and with the FFP over their head, they may end up with point deductions. Or for me, what would be worse for them would have a transfer embargo, where they can't bring any players in and they're stuck with that squad. And then they'll have the most expensive stadium in the championship, as everyone keeps telling the guys. But you are right. It was it's tough to see, but we got to 6. We did this Beat the Drop series on our channel, where at one stage there was only like 3 points between the bottom 9 teams. And we had a rep from all the YouTubers on there. And honestly, Matt, week on week, the moods changed. The depression kicked in, the happiness would come in. It was unbelievable that last season. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in the Premier League with that many teams involved. But yeah, those would be my 4 that would be in trouble. But Sheffield United, I want them down. I'll start with 2003.
Yeah, I mean, I think my nominations probably wouldn't be that much different. And I'm really hanging my hat on FFP finally doing the Premier League finally doing something about FFP with Everton. But if you're going to do something to Everton, you got to be doing something to Man City as well. So we'll see how that pans out. But it seems like that is a possibility. But also, as Wolverine said, they've got their own problems financially. So we'll see how that works. But it's going to be a tough one, really. I mean, last season, obviously, all 3 teams that came up stayed up, which doesn't happen too often. And I think that Fulham are an established team. Let's hope Forest will end up being an established team. I do worry for Bournemouth because I understand, and listening to what their owner said recently about the reason why he made the decision to move Gary O'Neill on, as he worded it. He didn't word it as sacking. He worded it as moving him on. They've obviously got a game plan in mind. They've got an idea of how they'd want to play. I still don't think they're not a big team. Again, another stadium which, it probably is. We're probably being a bit snobbish saying it's not worthy of the Premier League. But from our point of view, obviously our stadium was a massive part of us staying up, the atmosphere that we generated. But we're listening to Leicester fans towards the end of the season alluding to the Beat the Drop show that Wolverine just mentioned. So we had a lot of the guys on from there, and they even said the difference between you Forest and us lot is your home fans. Your fans are 100% behind you. Whatever happens, even if you go down, your fans are going to be 100% behind you. But we saw how toxic the Leeds fans got at some, even Everton fans, even and certainly the Leicester fans. They didn't have the support of their home team, and I think that's a massive thing. So if any one of those promoted teams can establish a core at home and that almost a fortress, but just having that belief from the home fans, that can make a huge difference, as we've seen.
That's why I think Luton might be a bit better than Sheffield United, because it's a tiny stadium. Yeah, it's quite enclosed in the noise. Like, it doesn't take much to create an atmosphere in that stadium, especially if people open their windows from the connecting houses. But I think it's going to be interesting. I guess the question you're asking, Matt, is do we see Forest in this battle next season?
Well, that is my final question, actually. I'm going to ask for an early prediction on what you guys think Nottingham Forest will get up to this season, where you think they'll finish in the table. Obviously, it's very early at the moment. Not many players coming through the door at this moment in time, so you are able to change your prediction if you want to in a week or two's time. At this moment in time, I'd say maybe between 13th and 15th, in my opinion. But I'm asking you guys, what's your predictions for Nottingham Forest at this moment in time for that new season?
Go on, I'll go first because he's going to come out with something really daft, so I'll leave a punchline for him. But I'd probably agree with where you, Matt, were putting us. I think last season I actually went for 11th at the start of the season, and this was before we'd signed our 22, 23 players. But I would like to finish the top of the bottom half of the table. So 11th, 12th, I'd be more than comfortable with. But points-wise, I'd like to see at least a 10, 15-point gap between us and the bottom 3. So that would be certainly great progression for us. But just don't want to be involved in that relegation fight. We want to do the Beat the Drop show again next season, but we don't want to be involved in it. So we want to be the spectators and see who gets involved in it. Last season wasn't... at one stage, we had 9 clubs, like Wolverine said, it was only 3 points between them. That's why we had so many people involved, so many teams involved in the Beat the Drop. But I'm hoping we're nowhere near it. And the start of the season, going back to that, is what I would take as progression is, as long as we don't have those 6-0, 5-0 defeats that we had last season, where we capitulated on several occasions, where you concede 1 goal and you conceding 2 or 3. As long as we can iron those out in those opening few away games, and I'll see that as massive progression. I've not seen us getting many points, but the odd point here and there, and we can hold on to our home points. And a good start is always important. It's not defining of your season, but it's always good to get off to a good start. And with the tricky start that we've got in terms of fixtures, and anything we can get out of those first couple of months of the season will be a bonus. But let's just hope that we're not involved in this relegation fight next season. Go on, mate. Your prediction.
I famously or infamously said last season Forest would finish 4th, and I've never lived it down since. So I'm not going to go that high this season. Look, I'll tell you what I want this year. I would love a stress-free Crystal Palace style season. Yeah, just like on the beach from the start, never threatening relegation, never threatening to win the title, although I wouldn't mind that kind of stress. But as a fan, I still do look at this squad, and yes, call me deluded, whatever. But I look, Morgan Gibbs-White is unreal. Jono, unreal. Felipe, breath of sheer class when he came in. Nia Kase, love him. Danilo, the list goes on. It's a proper Premier League squad. And when I start playing those games in my mind, I start thinking, well, do we have a better squad than Fulham? In my opinion, yes. As an overall squad, yes. I think they have better individuals who are probably still better than the Forest players, and they finished 10th. And then I look at the likes of Brighton, you got Brentford, etc. And then you start playing these mind games with yourself. So I'm going to land on 7th. I'm going to be deluded or positive or crazy, whatever word, the comments want to say, you say it, but I'm going to go 7th. And at the very least, you can at least grant me that I've come down from 4th to 7th. So still European football. but I'll take a stress-free season. I would want that more than anything.
Yeah, massive season coming. I think we're all in agreement for that. The Premier League's getting harder year on year, but maybe Steve Cooper and those magic Nottingham Forest fans can play a role in Forest climbing the Premier League table. Guys, we're going to wrap it up, but do let people know where they can find your channel and what they can find on your channel.
Everything to do with Forest, really. So there's daily videos. In the summer, we're doing transfer news on a daily basis. We've got currently a weekly stream. We'll be doing watch-alongs for the upcoming friendlies. We've got special guests coming on, like yourself coming on and being part of the community. And we've also got an FFTV barbecue coming up. So if you're in Nottingham and you're free on the 6th of August, we'll be down the Trent Nav doing a live podcast there. And obviously as part of the Trent Nav, they have a barbecue area where people can go buy food and have a drink, etc. So yeah, it's just like, if you want Forest content, you may not agree with everything we say. You may agree with some of it, but we just like to get everyone's opinions, really, and just talk Forest 24/7.
Yeah, and we're also like branching out with a few sub channels as well. So at the moment, it's going really well. We've got the FFTV High Press, which is very much stat based, looking at players that are in transfer windows. I mean, not just Forest related, but players across the Premier League. And that's being run by Dino, and he's doing a great job, even from the Philippines, running that. And we're also launching our FFTV Premier League channel, which will be having a more rounded look at the entire Premier League and not just focusing on Nottingham Forest. We'll be doing things like these kind of meetings and interviews as well, getting fans from other fan channels involved, looking to do maybe a fantasy Premier League as well, if guys are interested in that. And just lots of content coming up, because it's just so wish you guys had made it as well, Coventry had made it as well, but being in the Premier League is just, it brings so much more so many more eyes on your club. Forest have been around for obviously forever, and we've been fans most of our lives, but seeing the exposure we got last season was really eye-opening, and it just showed the difference from being in the Championship to being in the Premier League. And it does make a massive difference in terms of your worldwide, even our worldwide audience. Wolverine will tell you, we've got people watching us from Australia, from places in Africa, America, all over the world, and it really is fantastic to see how many fans we have got around the world. And all we're trying to do is basically get you guys involved in the channel, and hopefully bringing you the best content, so you don't have to go anywhere else, and everything's under one roof with the FFTV umbrella.
If you're a Nottingham Forest fan and you haven't already subscribed to their channel for some reason, do make sure to do so. And if you're a Premier League fan, do go over there as well and get involved with Forest Fan TV. Great content, really fast growing channel, guys. Number one Forest channel as well now. Do make sure to check them out, and thank you for joining me today, boys.
Absolute pleasure, mate.
Pleasure as always,
Anytime.
mate.